Well, we're back. We are back for some Mavericks basketball as the Mavericks take on the Golden State Warriors. We get you ready for everything that you need to know for tonight's game. Coming up next here on the DLS MAVS pregame show. Here we go. Hey, what's up, DLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato, Mavericks analyst Bobby Carella. We are DLS Mavs, your favorite guys cover your favorite team every single game night at Kevin Gray Sports, at Tim_Cato, at Bobby Carella. And you can always dial up the Stein line for our national NBA insider, Mark Stein, at the Stein line. We are back and better than before as the Mavericks are back on the floor tonight as they take on the Golden State Warriors after having a few days off. The Mavericks looking to get back on track as they take on Steph Curry and the Warriors in the Bay. We'll get you ready for the game over the course of the next half hour. What you need to know, who's in, who's out, X Factors, plus Bobby Carella's scouting report as well. Really appreciate you joining us here on DLS Sports here on YouTube. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe while you are here as well. As gentlemen, basketball is back. Good to see you all after a few days off. We are ready for some Mavericks basketball tonight.
It was like a little fake All-Star break.
It was nice.
Feels like I haven't seen you guys in a year.
Well, it hasn't been quite that long, but I'm glad to see you guys anyway.
When was their last game? Was Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Tuesday was our last game.
Nice. So this is what that feels like.
Exactly. This is what that feels like. Exactly. By the way, the Mavericks won't play again after tonight until Thursday. So a few more days off.
Let's do it.
Between their game tonight and when they take on the Los Angeles Clippers at home on Thursday. Let's jump into it. The Mavericks back on the road once again. They are playing their 13th road game in the last 17 games. Overall are your Dallas Mavericks coming into tonight at 16-9, 8-6 away from the American Airlines Center, taking on a Golden State Warriors team that's been struggling as of late, 14-10 on the season, 7-4 at Chase Center so far this year. The Mavericks a 1.5 favorite tonight on the road. Basically, it's a toss-up tonight. The over-under tonight, 227.5. You can watch the game tonight on KFAA Channel 29 or on NBA TV if you are out of market. But for the Mavericks, 11-2 in their last 13 games, playing, as I mentioned, their 13th road game in the last 17 games overall. 7-2, though, are the Mavericks in their last 9 road games, so they've been pretty good on the road as of late, as they have another opportunity to do that again tonight. 9-7 against teams above 500 are the Mavericks so far this year. Of course, they played last on Tuesday when they lost on the road to Oklahoma City, 118-104 in the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup. Since then, of course, the Thunder advancing all the way to the final, where they'll take on the Milwaukee Bucks on Tuesday for an NBA Cup crown. Meanwhile, the Mavericks had their 7-game win streak snapped on Tuesday, looking to start one anew tonight before they come home on Thursday to take on the Clippers. Meanwhile, for the Golden State Warriors, a team that's 5th in the West right now, just 2-7 in their last 9 games. In fact, they got off to what was a 12-3 start to the season and have struggled ever since. The Warriors played last on Wednesday when they lost to the Houston Rockets in their quarterfinal matchup in the NBA Cup when that was 91-90. The Warriors, though, 8-9 so far this year against teams above 500, 2-1 in their last 3 home games. They split a couple against the Minnesota Timberwolves before taking on the Houston Rockets, and they won on December 5th there. I mean, of course, they just traded for Dennis Schroeder, so a little new look for Golden State. Schroeder not available for tonight's game as he's not with the team yet. That gives you kind of the lay of the land for both of these teams, Bobby, as we get into your scouting report on tonight for a Warriors team that over the last 9 games has struggled quite a bit in a lot of different areas.
Yeah, they're 2-7 in their last 9 games. They got off to a really, really hot start. I think they might have even been first place in the West for like a couple days, but since then it's been pretty rough sledding for them. Over their last 9 games, they're 26th in the league in effective field goal percentage. The only teams that are worse, the Wizards, the Pelicans, the Hornets, and somehow the Houston Rockets. You're going to have to explain that one to me. But what they do or what they've done and what they did against the Mavs is they get their own misses. And when you're missing a lot of shots, you got to try and crash the glass. They have the 8th highest offensive rebound rate during that time. They also have the number 1 defensive rebound rate during that time. And I'm just looking, through the Mavs' most recent game against the Thunder. I'm looking through that box score. 5 offensive rebounds for Hartenstein, but also 4 for Cason Wallace, 3 for Lou Dort, 2 for Jalen Williams. It's the other guys, like the big men. Kevon Looney's going to get some offensive rebounds. Trace, they're going to get theirs, but you can't let the Andrew Wigginses, you can't let the Gary Payton, the Secondses, I don't know the plural of that. You can't let Pods come in.
Gary Payton's second.
Gary Pye.
Gary's Payton. Like attorneys general.
Gary's the second Gary Payton.
Pods come in and get a couple. And, that's what really killed the Mavs in addition to the turnovers against the Thunder. But the last time the Mavs played the Warriors, Looney, 9 offensive rebounds. Jackson Davis, 5 offensive rebounds. Kuminga was the only other Warrior that had more than 1. But still, the Mavs got outscored in second chance points by 6, and they lost that game by 3. So if the Warriors are going to keep shooting really, really poorly, well, then, you got to really, really box out. And they're a very reliant team on three-pointers. That's the other thing I wanted to say. Over their last 9 games during this little rough patch for them, they're 28th in free throw rate, 1 free throw attempt for every 5 shots they take. And the Mavs, the team that we've kind of criticized for fouling a little bit, Mavs top 5 opposing free throw rate team during that time. Opponents are only taking 19 free throws for every 100 field goal attempts during that stretch, which is number 4 mark in the NBA. So if you're not going to foul and you force some tough shots, get some rebounds, all of a sudden you're going to have a chance to win the game. Tim?
Yes. Oh, just kicking it off to me.
Yeah.
Thought you were about to ask me something.
No.
Tell me something. I was excited.
How do they force tough shots without getting fouls?
Most teams who've been
well,
playing,
let me lead you. Let me lead you a little better. Let me lead you a little better.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sorry for that. That's a grenade. I gave Tim a grenade.
There's 2 seconds left on the shot clock.
He tried to bail you out, but it didn't work.
Let's rewind to 2022. The Mavs lost to the Warriors in the conference finals. It was real gruesome. Mavs fans were complaining because it was Dwight Powell and Maxey struggling against Kevon Looney. Looney had a bunch of offensive rebounds. And I said on the internet during that time, the Mavs did not lose this series because Looney outworked the bigs. The Mavs lost that series because their defense was doing really weird stuff to try and keep Steph off the three-point line.
And they couldn't stop Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, but they were stepping out, 2 or 3 guys on the perimeter trying to jump through these screens to really take Steph out of it, but that let cutting lanes open underneath for Wiggins. That let, if your big is stepping out to contest a 3, then who's boxing out Looney? So how do the Mavs try and contain Steph with J-Kidd's rules without letting Looney and Jackson Davis, who against much better big men in the last time these 2 teams played, grabbed 14 offensive rebounds combined?
It's easier when you have a big that you do trust a little bit more. That if Dwight Powell got isolated out there, you're usually blitzing, sending extra help. Just sending a lot of guys. A lot of it was to, some of it was just the postseason setting of they were targeting Luka every possession. They were constantly targeting Luka, and I remember Golden State doing a better job of protecting Steph than Dallas could do a good job of protecting Luka, which is just something that happens in every series. That is an inevitability. Every team builds their defense with the understanding that you're going to try to.
It didn't feel like they went at Luka a lot last game.
No, and some of this is just going to be playoff setting type stuff. Like Steph's not going to play playoff minutes. Luka's not either. There's going to be more energy ability for the team to do that. Yeah, so it's a little bit of everything. I think let me keep talking through this.
Yeah.
You riff off that.
Okay. Yeah, Steph really only in the last game, he cooked him down the stretch.
Scored the final 12 points of that game the first time around.
Now, Lively made him earn that last one. You knew he was going to put it up, dude. Just step out. Just force him in the arc. I against Steph, it's I don't care what happens once he gets past you on the perimeter, but I just am not going to let him shoot a 3. I'm stepping out there. I'm sorry. Luka, you gotta rotate behind me to make up for my mistake. But
right.
They did a good job containing Steph for most of that game. But the fourth quarter was just got out of hand a little bit. But I thought they played a really good defensive game last time. You just got to box out. You got to finish these possessions.
Jason Kidd speaking pregame on what the keys are for the Mavericks tonight as they look to get a victory against Golden State. Here's what Jason Kidd had to say pregame.
Yeah, we got to take care of the ball. They're one that deflection steals. The last time here, we got down the stretch, we had some turnovers, and then we have to be able to box out and rebound. I know that's not so much of a defensive question, but that is part of their strength. As the last time, I think Looney had 9 offensive rebounds. We have to box out. We can't give them second or third opportunities, or it'll be a long night.
The Mavericks are definitely going to need to take care of the glass tonight. The Mavericks, good thing over the last 13 games, have been doing that. This is a team in the Mavericks that's number 1 in the NBA in defensive rebounding, number 3 in overall rebounds per game, and number 6 in the NBA in offensive rebounding over the last 13 games, which has helped them, Tim, to get to an 11-2 mark. They will need to do that tonight to take care of a front court that features guys like Draymond Green and others. The Mavericks have been doing a good job of that over the last 13 games for them.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas played that game against the Warriors pretty well, with the last time they were in the Bay, and it was just in the midst of their snake bit losing streak. Now that the Warriors have, fallen a little bit off, like they're a little bit off the, off of their rhythm, and like Dallas shouldn't go into this game and think anything but that it's super winnable. All of the Klay theatrics. And I don't mean that word with the negative connotation it sometimes is associated with it. But, all of that stuff is a little bit quieted. Obviously he's going to be a storyline. Everybody's going to be looking at him. But, the entire arena isn't going to be wearing, sailor caps. So
Are you sure?
I think so. I bet
There'll probably be a few fans that'll wear some
I bet there's
them.
a decent number of sailor hats in
Yeah.
there. That's only fitting. But it's not going to be the entire arena. So I don't know. I think this is a more, this is a good chance for them to go get a win and kind of get back into the flow that they'd been in, before, the NBA Cup and this weird stop-start nature of it kind of hit them.
The other thing that stands out to me, so Jake had talking about deflections and turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth quarter of that game, if you remember, especially the final 5 minutes, was the premiere of the why in God's name is everyone tunnel visioning in on passing it to Daniel Gafford.
That's right. Yes.
They had 3 turnovers, I think, in a row, or there was like 2 turnovers and a block.
Trying to
going
force
to
feed
Gafford
Daniel
in the final.
Gafford.
It's like,
Yes.
do literally anything other than forcing it to the guy that everyone is keying in on. Draymond had an incredible defensive game. Down the stretch, he was the one that blocked Gafford.
I think he had the block on Gafford.
Maybe he climbed the ladder a little bit too much, but you know what? They're going to let Draymond get away with that stuff in that building. But that's the thing. Like, Draymond is very physical, and the Mavs are coming off a game against the Thunder where they were not ready for that level of intensity, physicality, tenacity, and all that stuff on defense. Like, all of like the intangible stuff, they were not prepared for what OKC had. Now, the Warriors, man for man, don't have that. But Draymond has the fire of 1,000 NBA players.
Sure.
And then they do have some guys, Peyton, Pods, Wiggins at times, Kuminga, they'll get a little
They'll mix
physical.
it up a little
Moses
bit.
Moody will get a little physical with you. So, like, you got to be ready for that. You have to be ready for that tonight.
Golden State's the worst team in the league, or they allow the most shots in the short mid-range area, so outside of the restricted area, but inside of the free throw line area, so about 4 to 15 feet. That's where Dallas feasts. They're fourth in the league at how many shots they take there, and they don't take as many as Dallas is top 5 in how many shots they take there, and Golden State allows more than that. And sometimes that can be a good thing, but I'm not sure in this instance. Let's see, accuracy. They allow the most, and they allow the most shots from that area. They allow the second highest percentage of shots made from that area. So this is a team that does a pretty good job preventing you from getting all the way to the rim. But you can snake into those, short near the rim areas, and Dallas has a lot of players very capable of doing that. Even if Najee's out, which we're about to get there.
Luka and Kyrie, though, 18 of 27 on 2s in that game.
Yeah, but yeah,
That's
this is
a lot of where they go.
This is a big game for Luka and Kyrie to be patient, to be to put people behind them, put people in jail, keep them on the hip, and maybe you're not finishing directly at Jackson Davis or Draymond, but finishing near the rim, that's something Dallas can do, and that might be something we see. I think the patience from the offense is going to stand out.
A lot of star power in this game on both sides, of course, between the Warriors and the Mavericks. Steph Curry averaging nearly 23 points per game, shooting over 41% from downtown so far this year, also dropping 6.5 assists per contest. Conversely, for the Dallas Mavericks, of course, it starts and ends with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Luka Doncic averaging 28.1 points per game so far this year. That's 8th in the league, averaging 7.9 assists. That's also 8th in the league so far this year. And how about this? Luka Doncic averaging 2 steals per game. That is 2nd in the NBA, only behind Dyson Daniels, the great barrier thief, of course, in Atlanta. So Doncic,
only one defender better than Luka in the league this year.
That's right, if you're looking at it just from the steals standpoint. But don't worry about that. That's
Are either of them better than Monte Ellis that one season with the Mavericks?
Interesting debate.
Meanwhile, the Dallas Mavericks led defensively by Derek Lively with the second, averaging 9 rebounds and 2 blocks per contest in his last 10 games. Of course, these two teams got together back on what was November the 12th in terms of the return of Klay to the Bay that night. Klay Thompson had 22 points, hitting 6 threes in that game. Kyrie Irving also in that game was able to not play nearly as well as Luka Doncic. Kyrie Irving did not play well in that game either. Irving had 21 points. Meanwhile, Steph Curry had 12 points in the final few minutes of that game as the Warriors won 120-117. This is the second of 4 matchups between these two teams this year, 3 of which will be on the road in Golden State. So the Mavericks playing the Golden State Warriors a lot on the road.
Rigged.
That third loss, that was the last time these two teams played. It was the third loss of what was a 4-game losing streak for the Mavericks, and we know what they did after that 4-game losing streak. So the Mavericks looking to get a win in the Bay tonight. Coming up here in just a moment, we'll have who's in, who's out, our Mavericks player that we'll be looking at in terms of our player spotlight as well, and some X factors going into tonight's game coming up here on the DLS Mavs pregame show.
But first, KG, you know ball. Tim, you know ball. I'm trying to know ball better than I've known ball this year, and so here's my sleeper my sleeper pick of the night. I'm trying to get back on track. I think I've dropped a couple in a row here. We might be struggling to get the video, but I'll just tell you what I got. If you want to play along with me on Sleeper, promo code DLLS Mavs, they will match your first deposit up to 1,500 buckaroos. That's their best ever. What I'm going for tonight is Steph Curry. I altered his points to get at least 20 points. Kyrie, I think he's going to get at least 20 points as well. I altered his too. And then Klay, I'm taking Klay for more than 2.5 made threes. I think Klay's going to have a pretty good game. He's been shooting it well lately. A $5 play on Sleeper would pay $12.10. So that is a 2.42x multiplier. You can multiply your winnings up to 100 times, KG. I don't know if there's a combination that you can make in this game that would get you up to 100 times, but you're welcome to try. Promo code DLS Mavs will match up to $1,500.
And that's make sure you check out Sleeper when it comes to that. And you can do it right now. You can play along with Bobby and see what you can do in terms of winning some money tonight. Let's get to who's in and who's out and some X factors for tonight's game. We'll also take a look at our Mavericks player spotlight as well. As we take a look at the injury report for both teams, the Warriors, Steph Curry is available and good to go. He's dealing with right cervical inflammation. Andrew Wiggins, he's good to go. He's been dealing with a right adductor tightness for him. Moses Moody, he's out. He's dealing with a left knee injury. Dennis Schroeder is out, not with the team yet after, of course, the Warriors traded for Schroeder from the Brooklyn Nets. Meanwhile, on the Mavericks side, Dante Exum remains out with his right wrist injury. Jaden Hardy is out once again with his right ankle sprain. Maxi Kleber not only out with an illness, but apparently has a rib fracture as well. Jason Kidd was asked pregame when Kleber got the injury. Jason Kidd, not knowing necessarily when he got the injury, said it happened in the game. Doesn't know exactly when it happened.
There was a play. It might have been in the Thunder game. I don't remember, but he kind of he got bumped or fell or something, and then got up and was kind of doing this for a little while, and sort of you could kind of tell something was bothering him.
Every time I fracture my ribs, I kind of do that same little side to side shuffle. So it's a good indication.
It's the chronic,
not to be a Twitter doctor, but that's a good indication of a rib fracture.
Yeah, but you could tell he was just kind of he was wincing doing this for a while.
So Maxi Kleber is out with not just the illness, but also the rib fracture as well. And unfortunately, Najee Marshall back out once again with the illness. Can't shake with this, whatever this illness is. It's been running rampant through the Dallas Mavericks basketball team. Najee Marshall is out tonight.
Tanner gave that a thumbs down from off camera.
I would agree. It's very much a thumbs down.
At first, when I heard you groan, I was like, oh, God, we have a tech malfunction. But then you're just like this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, we're fine. We're fine.
Yeah, Dallas is kind of it kind of got this stretch in like the least lucky way possible. It's like, they beat Memphis to advance in the cup to get to this to the quarterfinals, but then they get the best team in the Western Conference and then they have to fly all the way out to Golden State. Even in this stretch of a bunch of off days. There's one game in 8 days, and that one game unfortunately is 2 time zones away. All that said, though, I mean, I think Dallas is more glad that they got 1 in 8, one game in 8 days,
sure.
Because between the illness and the nagging injuries and all this stuff, and Kyrie playing so many minutes, and Luka coming back and looking much better, but still kind of getting over the slow start. I think Dallas will take this like mini little break, even if you kind of look at it and you think, well, if the reward for beating Memphis or to beat Memphis was just these 2 games, maybe it would have even been better if they had just lost that game that it almost certainly looked like for most of that game was headed towards a loss. Maybe, they probably would have had 2, they definitely would have had 2 way easier games. But again, the break, I think, is the important thing here. The team needs it. The sanitation team that's been scouring the practice facility for days now. They needed that.
Saw Mike Marshall walking around in a hazmat suit the other day.
Damn. Yeah.
Can I cry on the internet real quick? Can I just be a homer for a second?
Sure. Homer it up, man.
The Mavs finished with the same record as all the other teams that advanced in the NBA Cup out of the West, 3-1, and they had the best point differential out of those 4 teams, yet they had to play on the road against OKC and now on the road against the Warriors. They didn't get to host a game despite finishing with the best point differential. They didn't get to host a game after losing despite having, again, a better point differential. No. Their reward for advancing out of the NBA Cup was a road game at OKC and a road game at the Warriors. They will play in OKC and in Golden State 3 times each this season. They will play those teams 1 time each in Dallas. So the Mavs now have 40 home games this year. So they have the toughest schedule in the NBA.
That was the
Mavericks have the toughest opponent strength of schedule in the NBA now, and probably based on 40 and 42. Like the lowest expected win percentage or whatever, just based on that alone. Like it's that you get cursed. So fix the NBA Cup. Fix it. All right, that's it.
Well, guess what? The Mavericks got some help returning tonight in the form of PJ Washington. He is the subject of our Mavericks player spotlight. PJ Washington, of course, back for the Mavericks after missing the game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Just to give you an idea of how important PJ Washington is to the Mavericks so far this year, the Mavericks are 15-4 with PJ Washington in the lineup, 1-5 without Washington so far this year. In fact, Jason Kidd was asked about PJ Washington's impact prior to the game tonight. Here's what Jason Kidd had to say about the returning PJ Washington.
I think once we got the trade with PJ and we got to see who PJ is or has become is more of, I hate to say like the heart and soul of the team, the guy who does all the dirty work, the guy who's going to go unnoticed in the sense of maybe not talked about as an MVP or an all-star, but is one that is the glue of the team, the one that you can rely on any situation, defensively or offensively. But when you have the likes of Kai and Luka, they tend to get a lot of the attention, and rightfully so. But when you look at PJ, just what he brings, his grit, his toughness, his basketball skill set fits perfectly of what we're trying to accomplish. And so, you could look at him as being kind of that heart and soul of the team. And when he's out, we have not done well. And so that's the numbers. The numbers tell us we don't play well without him. So it's good to have him back.
Jason Kidd calling PJ Washington the heart and soul of this Mavericks team. They will need that tonight, especially when it comes to Washington's versatility, his rebounding, and all the things that PJ is capable of. Mavericks are glad to have PJ back in the lineup. Hopefully he will make a difference tonight. As we get into our X Factors for tonight's game, let us know what you're thinking about tonight's game as the Mavericks are back in action taking on the Golden State Warriors tonight. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to DLS Sports while you're here. on our pregame show. Gentlemen, let's get into our X Factors for the evening. Let's start with the Mavericks and all the things that they've been doing well during this 13-game run where they're 11-2 in their last 13 games. One thing that we've continuously talked about, and Jason Kidd has started to mention it as well, and you heard him mention it during the pregame as well during his press conference, is taking care of the basketball. Can the Mavericks solve the turnover problem? This is a team that's 6th worst in the league over the last 13 games in turnovers, averaging nearly 16 turnovers per game. The Mavericks, the last time they took on the Warriors in the Bay, committed 18 turnovers in that loss in the first matchup. Bobby, you were speaking to some of that just a few moments ago when it came to the Mavericks turning the ball over at inopportune times, especially in that fourth quarter there.
Yeah, if memory serves, the Mavs had a couple turnovers at the start of the first and the third quarters in that game. And, like, whenever you get off to shaky starts in either half, it just kind of, like, it just makes you feel icky, you know? Icky starts make you feel icky. That's great sports talk. But the Mavs and the Warriors, based on opponents' effective field goal percentage, are the number 1 and number 2 transition defenses in the league. And so they're pretty good at, like, limiting those looks. But in that game, the last time the Mavs played the Warriors were 11 of 17 on shots in the fast break. They were plus 10 in fast break points in that game. So it was turnovers and misses and long rebounds and not getting back and doing all the things that drove us crazy at the start of the year. You know, and again, they lost that game by 1 shot. They lost that game by 3 points. So all these, like, extra second chance points and, you know, bad turnover and not getting back on defense, like, that'll cost you at the end of the game. So you have to take care of all that stuff in addition to worrying about Steph. It's very difficult to do.
Yeah, and it's been a problem of late, absolutely. But Dallas is still top 10, you know, exactly 10th, but they're top 10 in turnover percentage, their offenses. And so this is been a recent thing that's held them, absolutely, but it's not like they're sinking so far beneath where we expect them to be when you look at the overall big picture, the big sample size of this entire season. And they've also played some teams that are very good at turning you over recently. You know, OKC obviously is. Memphis is a good team in that, even if that game was, you know, the 25 they had in that game was inexplicable, but still, that's a team that turns you over. Toronto is a team that has some ball hawks. Atlanta, you know, they had 18 against Atlanta, and that's a team that is really honed in on forcing turnovers with their defense. And so I guess the point to this is that, yeah, it's something they need to clean up, but I also think it's something that's just going to start naturally getting cleaned up here in the next coming weeks. It certainly is something to note, but I don't think the stats are showing that this is going to be a serious season-long issue. It's just something that's popped up right now, and we'll begin to revert back to where I expect it to be, which is, you know, somewhere in the top 10. Like, you know, if not top 5, then approaching top 5. That's typically where Luka teams are, and I think, you know, even if they're not top 5 this season, I think they're going to be, you know, somewhere between 5 and 10.
Ardell, I see you in the chat, boxing out and rebounding, please, when it comes to the Mavericks.
It's my love language
for tonight's game. Let's focus in on the superstars, especially on the Mavericks side. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, X factor number 2, getting off to a better first half start. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving both held under 20 points in the same game for the first time this season. In their last game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, they combined for what was 9 points in the first half against Oklahoma City. You got to have your superstars get off to a better start. Looking for that tonight as they take on Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. Final one as we focus in on tonight's game. Klay Thompson returning back to Golden State for the second time already this season. Didn't play too bad in his first time returning to the Bay. Had 22 points, made 6 threes in that game back on November 12th. In fact, Klay Thompson has had at least 15 points in 4 out of his last 7 games, including 19 in the loss against the Oklahoma City Thunder, Bobby, where Klay Thompson quietly feeling like he's playing a little bit better as of late.
Need it. You know, against the Thunder, it was a lot of ball pressure, double teams, and over-rotating and stuff, and so that kind of stuff is going to leave Klay open. The Warriors, they did actually lose Klay in the half court. I mean, this is all based on my memory, so take that for what it's worth, but Klay got some open looks in the half court. They did force some stuff like post-ups and ISOs and stuff like that, and I don't like any of that. I never like that, but
feels like Wes Matthews back in the day.
Yeah, just like you don't have to do it. Like, sure, he's fine. If you do it enough, he'll score, but like I'd rather him do the thing he's really good at. And then he also got some transition threes, and so and you know, putbacks and things like that. So you know, a lot of that is going to come down to can Luka and Kyrie get past their man. Luka struggled against Wiggins for a lot of his career, but he's had some really big games against the Warriors too. So I would expect Luka to be pretty aggressive tonight.
Mavericks number 2 in the NBA over the last 13 games in terms of three-point percentage, looking to knock down a bunch of threes tonight as well when they take on the Golden State Warriors. It should be some fun basketball in the Bay in San Francisco as the Mavericks are back on the floor to take on the Golden State Warriors. We will be back here post-game 15 minutes after the final buzzer. Our national NBA insider Mark Stein will also join us live in studio as well, so make sure you come back with us here on DLLS Sports for the DLLS Mavs post-game show as well. It's time for Mavericks basketball as they take on the Golden State Warriors coming up here in just a few moments. For Bobby Carella, that's Tim Cato. I'm Kevin Gray. We'll be back here for our Mavs postgame show 15 minutes after the game is over. We'll talk to you then on DLLS Sports. Y'all be good. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.